Hi Real Writers, new microphone, might sound a bit different. Let me know if you can tell the difference in the comments. Thank you to everyone who's been doing this. I'm going to get the thank yous out of the way up front. So remember to subscribe, share and everything like that. And thank you for everyone who's been doing it. This week, we're going to look at something which we really should consider when we do our writing. And I got it from, I'm going to put an image up here of the two gentlemen. I subscribed to Masterclass, and the first thing we're going to look at is the concept of a thing they call mass intimacy. These guys are advertising geniuses, and they did the Got Milk ad. What else? They did I Love That Game for the NBL. They've done some massive, world famous ad campaigns, and they work around this one idea of mass intimacy. And the idea of that is that you're talking to an individual, and the individual should feel like you're talking just to them. And you've got to be able to do that 1,000,000 times. So everyone can connect with the story, the advert, see themselves in it, which we also need to do in film, and that becomes mass intimacy. How can we do that with our film? Well, people say a character has to be likeable. We'll shoot that in the head straight away. No one has to be likeable. You can have truly, truly unlikable characters, but we must be able to relate to them. So they must be relatable. So how do we take that first step towards mass intimacy and build a relatable character? How is someone relatable? They have to be able to, the audience has to be able to see themselves in that character, which means maybe the character has to be making a hard decision on the horns of a dilemma. And it should be a dilemma that everyone should have to think about. Would I really go and, sell out my spouse for some cash? Would I go and betray my children? Would I do something like that just for a promotion? If you're going to have a character do that, we have to lay that seed. We have to do the setup. So we pay off with the betrayal, and then we see the aftermath of the betrayal. I would put that betrayal around the midpoint. So the second half of the film is the fallout. So we have to lay the seed first to make someone relatable. We have to put them in a scenario where everyone knows exactly what they would do, or everyone would hate to be in that scenario. So a relatable character is going to help with the mass intimacy. It has to be a believable character in that scenario. Some 15-year-old plucked off the street. I mean, it used to work in those 80s and 90s comedies, like Changing Places. Eddie Murphy was just a guy selling oranges, I think, if I remember rightly, but he was just a hustler, street hustler. Gets picked up off the street by these two guys and taught how to, and he becomes this major trader in Trading Places, and was Orange Juice Futures or something like that. I haven't watched the film in a long time. Those things were outrageous, and the outrageousness of them is part of the joke. A pet detective. Jim Carrey's pet detective character was just so over the top and so outrageous, but everyone else was acting normal around him. That was part of the joke. That outrageousness is part of the comedy and part of that outrageousness of the 80s and 90s. It was a very escapist type era. We don't do that now. What films tend to do now for a mass market is have more relatable characters. If you look at some of the Marvel ones that have really just failed, they're unbelievable and unrelatable. No one's going to really connect with this character who's come from nowhere and now is this. So you need to find a world that this character can operate in, and in a way that the person who you want the character to be relatable to would also have to be able to operate in that environment. And if you're taking a weekend dad, so let's look at two weekend dads, or two dads. Hugh Jackman in Prisoner, and Liam Neeson in Taken. In Prisoner, Hugh Jackman's daughter is taken by a serial killer. So he acts the way a dad would. He goes and gets the guy that he suspects of doing it, kidnaps him, locks him away, basically tortures him with boiling water until he starts to confess. That's within his scope and skill, within his ability to do what he can do, because he's a contractor that builds houses. So he reacted within his world in a way that other people would relate. You're going to go kill the person, hurt your kid. Relatable. And that spoke to a lot of people. That's a very successful film. So that has mass intimacy. If we look at Taken, we had to add something in where he was, I have a very particular set of skills. He was a, who knows, ex-CIA, ex-hitman, ex-gangster, ex-SEAL, special forces, counter-terrorist, contractor, super violent boffin who now works as a security guard for a pop star. He was believable because you could go, oh, when a guy's too old to do that at that level, where he's going to be paid a lot of money by a corporation to go in and do something, or by a government to go and do something, he would become a bodyguard. Believable, relatable. He's going to now use those skills to get his daughter back, his pride and joy, to save the daughter. And he connected with her in a different way than other people, not with the money, not with those huge parties. He bought her a karaoke machine because he knows how much she loves singing. So they were a really close-knit group together, him and his daughter. And other people can relate to that, having a close relationship with someone, with their teenage daughter, or, the young adult daughter who's going off on her first trip or his first trip overseas. Everyone can relate to that. Suddenly you know what that film's about. Mass intimacy. If we had have got Hugh Jackman and suddenly this contractor who had an ex-drinking problem is like a Green Beret and he can do all these things and fight off all these people and knows how to torture people by putting forks in their thighs and connecting them up to 240 volt. All that sort of stuff would have been unbelievable, would have broke that relatability, would have broke it, and you wouldn't then have mass intimacy. So the other part of this is I watch Masterclass a lot, but not for the writing stuff. Writing stuff's very interesting, but I watch it for Chris Voss's hostage negotiation, great advertising, Intel work. So was involved in Intel for a long time. Cooking, anything that's at that sort of level that can give you the insight of a greater and wider world. And the reason I'm mentioning that is study some advertising, study biology, study just at a cursory level, get on, watch some YouTube videos, learn how philosophical arguments work, get on there and watch some religious philosophical arguments and how people strawman or steelman, or how people try to redefine a word during a conversation to change it. That will improve your dialogue. I actually put that into the, there's the post for it. The Sherlock and Mycroft screenplay I finished recently. You can download it on Script Revolution if you want to give it a read. In it, I talk about that redefining of words. A solicitor is talking to Mycroft, and Mycroft pulls him up and says, you said I would get, but my brother would obtain. I forget the words I used. So he picked up on that difference on wording. Why is the solicitor treating Sherlock and Mycroft different by choosing a different word? And that came, I picked that up because I've been watching a lot of philosophy arguments and debates where you see people start to redefine words or use different words. Watch the behaviour panel where they start talking about police interviews. Even if you're not going to write police interviews, it starts to teach you how people position themselves, what they'll do. If a person does this, that might just be how they do. I've done it because it gets my hands out of the way. But if someone does this, that's deliberate because that's a very, very hard thing to do. So if someone does that, they're intentionally showing you. And then where it starts to drop down, maybe they're losing confidence. So you can start to use this stuff that you're learning by studying more than just writing in your writing, and it'll make it feel more authentic, more real, more relatable, and you will obtain mass intimacy. Thanks to everyone. There's the books. I've done a price drop on these because, why not? 20% writerduet just for you. I make no money. That's a good thing. I use everything for writerduet and I can vouch for it. And until next time, keep writing. Bye.